Harvest Gratitude Day 2025. I know many of you join every year, so thanks for being here. We're just going to go over some logistics and then we will introduce our presenters to you. So to start, we're going to give you an introduction to what Farm to Fork is. I hope many of you already know, but we'll share some details on why we're here and who our guest speakers are today. And then we'll just go over some logistics. I know a lot of schools come in and out just based on your class schedule. But you should have received an email with some basics there, and we'll also have a recording of this webinar, so you can watch on your own time. If you only caught a little bit of it, you can go back and watch the entire thing, and we'll email that out after to you, so it's easy to access. And then about 10 minutes in, we'll start our farm tours. We have John Keller here, who is our Director of Animal Industry at the Department of Ag, and then Fred Openshaw with Openshaw Acres. And then last but not least, we'll save all of our questions for the very end. So if you could either just put those in the chat, we will monitor those throughout, and then we'll ask those to our presenters at the end. If you need closed captions today, that is available at the bottom of your screen, and that will provide translations that you may need for your class. And then we also just ask that you stay muted just to make sure we don't interrupt our guests and we can save our questions for the very end, since we only do have an hour of their time today. And then again, like I said, webinar is recorded and we'll send that out to you after, as well as put it on our website for easy access moving forward. So I'm going to hand it over to Dani Perez. She is our farm to school specialist at the State Board of Education, which houses all of our child nutrition programs, and is where Farm to Fork was founded. So I'll hand it over to you, Dani.
Great, thanks Natalie. Happy Harvest Gratitude Day. As Natalie said, I'm Dani Perez. I'm the Farm to School Specialist under the Board of Education here in Utah. And again, like Natalie said, we work a lot on child nutrition programs, but I also help with schools with farm to school programming and purchasing local foods for their students, which has been really fun and really impactful. We are here because we are Utah Farm to Fork. We're a partnership between the Utah State Board of Education, where I am, and the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food, where Natalie is, which again is why we're here today, and we're here to celebrate farm to school in our state. We are the Utah chapter of the National Farm to School Network, and we focus a lot on connecting communities, especially schools. That's where our main focus is, with fresh food and local food producers, which you'll hear about more today. Because we're under this umbrella of farm to school or farm to fork, we divide our programming into three key areas. Number one, that's education. So we're making sure teachers and caregivers are empowered to use food-based learning and any ag education and put that into any curriculum that they have. Number two is local procurement. So we want to make sure all people, including and especially our younger population, have access to nutritious, local, healthy food. And then last but not least, our third one is school gardens. So this key area is really fun. It's making and creating space for growing food. Again, it's for educating and learning, similar to our education and our local procurement. And we really want to emphasize having that hands-on connection with our food and communities. So that is Utah Farm to Fork in a nutshell, and I'll hand it off to Natalie to get us started with more of our presentations today.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So to start, we're going to hand it over to John Keller. He recently took on a new role within the Department of Ag, but has been there for a while, but he is our Animal Division Director. He's going to share a lot about what they do, but in a nutshell, their goal is to keep Utah's livestock healthy and safe, since raising animals like cattle, sheep, and chicken is the biggest part of Utah's farm economy, which is worth over $1 billion. The work is extremely important, and there's so many facets to it. So we're really excited you're here, John. We're going to have him introduce himself, and then we will switch over to his presentation.
Thanks, Natalie. Yeah, so I will just give a little bit of my ag story and how I became to work here at UDAF. I was actually born and raised in the state of Wyoming, and it was a small community. Fort Bridger, Wyoming, Lyman, Mountain View, and Fort Bridger make up a small valley. and I was surrounded by ranching, sheep ranchers, cattle ranchers, um, and then it was a mining community as well. But my dad was a school teacher in the high school, but we always had horses around. So I grew up around horses, and I actually uh, had my first job on a dairy farm, a local dairy farm. So I grew up around agriculture to a certain degree. I spent most of my career in the private sector, working for a nonprofit organization that helped people get out of credit card debt, actually. And part of that was internal auditing. And when the opportunity came up to apply here at UDAF for an internal audit management position, I jumped on that. And so for the last 3 years, I've worked here at the Department of Agriculture as their internal audit manager. So we look at our internal processes and things and see where we can do better, see where we can improve, and make sure that we're abiding by the law that we have set out, just like we hold our producers to the law. So we try to make sure that we're following our policies and procedures as well. And so a few months ago, the opportunity came up for me to get back into my management roots and managing animal industry. So I've been doing that for the last couple months, and it's even though I've had ag in my background, my eyes have been open to a whole new spectrum of what goes on behind the scenes to bring the citizens of Utah their food and specifically their meat, and make sure that it is healthy and safe. So that's a little bit on me and where I'm at, and I can go ahead and begin the rest of the presentation. So next slide, Natalie, if you can. Okay, so within animal industry, we have 5 programs: animal health, aquaculture, so all the fish, brand inspection and registration. We have a domestic elk program that we manage, and then meat and poultry inspection. And many people don't realize that we have the Utah horse racing that we also are over. Next slide. Okay, so animal health. Part of animal health, or the main things that animal health does, is look and try to maintain a healthy animal base. So here at the Department of Agriculture, currently, we have our state veterinarian, we have an assistant state veterinarian, and we have we have 2 field veterinarians, and then we also have a few veterinarians that work in up at USU in Logan at our lab facility, and also in Spanish Fork we have a lab. So as we take samples that are sent in for animals, we send them to those labs, and they test those to make sure that the animals that are going through processing are healthy. If we find anything that is not that is a negative test, we look into that. And so an example of that would be this year, we had 3 facilities, turkey facilities, that tested positive for HPAI, which is a highly pathogenic avian influenza. And so as part of that, there was 87,463 birds that we had to depopulate, that we lost out of that population. Last year was even worse. Was we had a really bad outbreak with over 2 million birds that were depopulated. So this year has not been as bad, so we're grateful for that. But that is something that can spread easily, and we take that very seriously. So there's in Utah, we have the 13 dairies, we have egg layer operation, we have the turkey operations, and then there's some backyard flocks that aren't major producers, but they do still produce animals. And then one of the interesting things about animal industry and animal health right now is that we are lacking in the state for veterinarians for large animals. It's at an all-time low, and so at UDAF we have a loan repayment program for veterinarians, and part of that is they can apply for repayment of their loans to go through veterinarian school, and in return they commit to serving or working in a rural area for several years after they graduate. And so we have received applications for that, and we are currently running that program. So veterinarians is a huge part of animal health, and we would appreciate people being interested in going into that field, because especially large animal field right now. Next slide. So aquaculture, we don't hear much about aquaculture, but we're not a huge fish state, but in aquaculture, we have a program manager as well. And his primary functions are licensing, issuing permits, and inspecting. So it involves licensing all the fee fishing facilities, which there's 62 of those in the state. And then he issues the permits for all aquatic animals that are imported into the state. A lot of you know of the aquarium that's here in the state. The animals that are brought in to imported in for that, they all have to go through an inspection through the Department of Agriculture to make sure that they are healthy and that they are carrying no diseases. And so then part of that leads into the next thing that he does, and that's inspection. He inspects all the aquatic facilities, test the water, make sure that there are healthy things going on in all those facilities. Next slide. Okay, brand inspection and registration. Brand inspection is a very important program within animal industry. And one of the easiest ways for me to explain what's involved with brand inspection is to compare it to a car. So if you purchase a car, that car has a title that follows the vehicle. So that title is how we know who the owner of that car is. So if someone else purchases that car, the owner of that car will sign the title over to the new owner. And then now that title goes to the new owner saying that they own that car. Well, that is what brand inspection is for cattle and for livestock. So every cow in the state and sheep also, they have what is called a brand that they carry. And there's different kinds of brands. There's some brands that are put right on the body, and there are also earmark brands that are placed in the ears. And so all of our ranchers and producers, they have to register and maintain a brand that is particular to their ranch, and they brand their animals with that, and then that shows that they are the owner of that piece of livestock. As they sell those or take them to auction to sell them off, then brand inspections are done to verify that the brands are correct and that the people selling those cattle are the actual owners of the cattle. So it is a huge part of the process of bringing you, the people of Utah, your meat. Next, okay, so domestic elk program. This is a program that not many people even realize that we have here at UDAF. But the elk, obviously, we have elk in the wild that is regulated by the Department of Wildlife Services. But we also have a domestic elk program that monitors the elk imports. They also do brand inspections on the elk. It's a different kind of brand. It's not a brand that goes on the body. It's an ear tag. They monitor for CWD, which is chronic waste disease, which is something that we are always concerned with. And if there's any farms or ranches that are positive for that, we have quarantines. We inspect the fences of these facilities annually, and we also take a yearly inventory of every single elk that is in the state of Utah. Next slide. So part of this program, there are 35 domesticated elk operations in Utah. 25 of those are farms in which they raise elk. And then there's 10 ranches, or what are called hunt parks, where individuals can buy an elk tag from these companies, these producers, and they can go on their property, which is private property. It's not public property. And they can hunt one of these elk. And currently there are 3,355 domesticated elk in the state. Next slide. Okay, now meat and poultry inspection. This is one of the most important programs here in animal industry. This is where our inspectors certify and make sure that the meat that is being produced and sent out to our customers is safe. So there's a total of 139 operations throughout Utah. This includes 55 custom exempt plants, 35 farm custom slaughter permits where they can actually be mobile units that go around to ranches and harvest animals that way. We have 16 poultry exemption plants where poultry is processed. There's 21 state plants, and a state plant is basically a plant that carries the Utah inspection sticker, and that says that we as a state have had one of our state inspectors involved in the processing of that animal or of that meat from the beginning stages of harvesting the animal all the way through the processing. And we inspect the plants, and we have one of our inspectors there pretty much all day long that they are producing. And we abide by federal regulations that are put out by the USDA. And then there are 16 what we call TA plants. And those are plants that are federal plants, but they are inspected by our state inspectors, because our state inspectors know the federal qualifications and laws and regulations, because that's what we follow. They also are able to meet up with the federal guidelines and also inspect their plants. So Those plants are basically inspected in the same way a state plant would be, but the federal plant carries a different registration sticker than the state plant would. But the meat is still is inspected and carries that sticker. So these numbers on here are from 2024, where we inspected and passed 43,404 animals for human consumption, and we performed 645 animal and carcass dispositions. So process a lot this year. Those numbers are even higher. Next slide. Okay, so the last program here to talk about is the horse racing. Utah Horse Racing Commission is something that is ran through the Department of Agriculture, and there in 2024 there were 280 new and renewed licenses for horse racers. And the Quarter Horse Racing Association ran 48 races and 6 schooling races over 6 days in Utah. And a lot of times we get the question of, well, how does horse racing, how does that kind of fit under agriculture, and how does that help the state of Utah? Well, part of the horse racing atmosphere is in these races, if they are sanctioned races through the state, then those points that the horses gain go towards national recognition. And so through having the horse racing as a sanctioned event in Utah, that brings validity to the horses themselves, which in turn does help and the market value of horses that are in Utah, and helps the horse producers in Utah. So we do have a lot of horse producers in Utah that do export their horses to other states throughout the country. And so that helps give them an actual starting point, scoring, that sort of thing for their horses, for the breed, and helps the state of Utah and those producers that are involved in the horse programs. So that's kind of in a nutshell what we do here in the Department of Agriculture in the Animal Industry Division. And if you have any questions, then yeah, I'll look forward to answering those at the end of the presentation.
Amazing. Thank you so much, John. I had a lot of questions, and then we would move to the next slide, and you answered them. And I also work
Oh,
in the
good.
Department of Ag, and I learned so much. So thank you
Great.
for that. So we're going to hand it over to Fred next. Fred is a 7th generation farmer at Openshaw Farms, and his last name is Openshaw. So if there's anyone better to speak about his family's legacy in farming in Utah, it would be him. So I'll hand it over to you, Fred. Thanks for being here.
All right. It's a pleasure to be here today and to kind of share a little bit about our family farm. As was mentioned, I'm one of the Fred Openshaws. There's a few of us in our family, and just background of myself. I'm actually the 5th generation that's been working on our family farm. And I've grown up involved in our family fruit orchard my whole life, uh, and kind of grew to have a passion for the fruit industry here in Utah, and our and being a part of our family farm, as I was in high school, and that kind of influenced what I later on got degrees in college with ag business degree and ag econ math degree as well. And then there was the opportunity to be able to come back and work on our family farm, um, and with that, I took advantage of the opportunity and have been involved on our family farm full time since 2020. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. Just some history about our family farm is we, as mentioned, it's our family farm is multi-generational, and it started with my great grandfather, Eli Openshaw, who um, in his life he'd been involved in ag down in Arizona where he grew up, and uh, as as he got later into life, he actually went and got his became a doctor, a medical doctor, and decided to move back up here to Santaquin, Utah, where his uncle and some of his other family had lived. And at that same time that he kind of started his medical practice here in Santaquin, was right when the Great Depression came about and came on, and so a lot of people who needed the medical attention weren't able to afford it, and so he, as a way to help those individuals, actually purchased about 10 acres up by just before you go up Santaquin Canyon, and planted trees and fruit trees and that, and gave those individuals that needed to get the medical help they needed the opportunity to be able to repay by helping out on that farm and that farmland. And kind of as his son, the first Fred, kind of later on bought that 10 acres, continued to purchase additional farmland here in Santaquin, and is kind of the basis for our our logo and part of our kind of our legacy here on our family farm is the first Fred, from what my grandfather and my dad would say is he would love to here at his house here in Santaquin have the apple varieties that we grew at the time. He would love being out there as people stopped by to purchase to get apples. He loved being able to talk to each person that came by, to explain what's the uniqueness of each of the apple varieties he had available, and just to be interacting with people as they stopped by um, his house to pick up apples. And so that's kind of why our logo is kind of based off of him. And with our family farm, it's there's been also there's been changes that and things that have evolved as our history has gone and came by, where we've been with my great grandfather and my grandfather. We had more animals, uh, chicken, poultry, hens that were some hen houses that we would that produced eggs that we would sell, and also some, um, and we also there was pigs that we raised. But as we kind of kept evolving over the years, we've kind of settled into more of a focus on fruit and growing fruit. And so that, and then as my great grandfather passed on, the farm transitioned to my grandfather, and then my dad, alongside my grandfather, has kind of managed the farm over the last few years. And as I came back onto the family farm, I have kind of been um, moving our our farm forward into the future. Can head on to the next slide. And so, right currently, for us, we produce, um, like I said, different fruit crops. Our major crops that we actually produce are apples, peaches, and then we have nectarines. Those three are kind of our big ones that we produce on our farm. And then we also, um, in mixed in with those, have some plums, and pluots that you see under the apples, a few apricots and pears, and then under the peaches there, and then at the last column, we have a few cherries. Cherries that you can uh, eat fresh. The sweet cherries, we produce a few of those as well, on our family farm. All right. Um, so with that, we kind of, since there's not really much of a farm tour I can do at this time of the season, I figured I would just kind of go over and talk about what kind of the process of how fruit, um, we grow fruit and it gets to your table. And so all for us, it all starts with when we plant new fruit trees in a block, as you can see here. Um, with that, there is trees that we will um, that we actually will get from a tree nursery, and then um, we'll then plant those in the specific um, plot of land that we are wanting those trees to be planted in. Um, the one unique thing with fruit trees is that compared to like vegetables, is if we were to plant just a seed that you got from fruit like an apple seeds, you can never know for certain if you'll get that same apple variety. And so, um, in the fruit industry, in order to ensure that we have the same fruit variety, um, we end up either getting trees from we get trees from a tree nursery that we then plant to ensure that all of those trees will bear the same type of fruit. I think there should have been a video. I don't know if it's coming up, will come up or not. If it doesn't, here's kind of the picture. Um, as we're planting, as we go through and plant these new blocks, we actually will go use a tree planter that's pulled behind a tractor. This will actually help speed up the planting process. And like the block here that you see, it usually will make it so that we can get trees planted within cover a block this size in about 2 to 3 hours. And so it's a key part of as we're planting trees that we use to help speed the process. We can go ahead and move to the next slide. And the other part that we in getting the fruit trees started is we'll do some grafting, which is as you can see here, there's an existing tree, an existing apple tree. We'll actually go through and cut it down to a stump, and then we'll then get it's a different apple variety in this instance, that are little twigs that we then can go through, take out, make sure that the tissue of the new apple variety and the existing apple tree match up and can heal together, and then that will then help grow a new apple tree that we can then have and kind of transition an existing apple orchard into another apple variety. And with both of those, it is a process. If we go to the next slide, there is a bunch of work that goes into it, even after the trees are planted. From going through each year, pruning the trees like we see on the left hand side, to getting the new irrigation system out, which is little sprinklers that get water to each tree. And the interesting fact is that with this whole process, it does take, from when you plant those new trees or graft a new tree, it takes about almost, can be 3 to 4 years for fruit like peaches, nectarines, cherries, and that to start actually producing fruit. For apples, almost 4 to 5 years until they start actually producing fruit that we can then pick and be able to sell, that can then make it to your guys' table in the end. We'll with kind of talking about the beginning process of how an orchard is started. We'll kind of move on to the next slide here, next one, which is each year, each season, is we start. It's kind of we go through the same process, which is there in the winter time, we'll usually go out winter to early to springtime. We'll be out in the blocks, going through and pruning each tree, making sure that that branches are not gonna uh, break, won't be don't get too long that they can break under with the fruit or the fruit crop for the upcoming year, and just making sure that the tree remains healthy and continues to grow. Um, Without um, pruning them regularly, the trees tend to kind of start to uh, die back, and it doesn't, and there's less growth that can occur, which is important part of tree health, is making sure that there's the branches and the trees continue to grow, because the growth that occurs on those branches will then help um, develop new fruit buds or flower buds that you see in the background here on this apple tree in the future. And then we also uh, in this in that springtime, once blossoms do come out, there is always the risk and the gamble that we as farmers here in the fruit industry have of trying to make sure that the blossoms make it through those cold times in the evenings during the springtime, when it can get below um, below if it gets below the like high 20s. Sometimes it can actually cause damage and kill those blossoms that you see on the tree, and then it will severely hamper what fruit is produced off of those trees each year. And so we're always looking to ensure to help protect those trees against those cold temperatures and frost, from having heaters out in the orchard blocks to help increase the temperature just a bit so it doesn't get below that temperature that is that can where damage can be caused. All right. Um, we can, and then um, the other big aspect is we rely in the fruit industry heavily on pollinators like honeybees to help in that pollinate each of those blossoms in order to have fruit for the next year. If you want to click, uh, and then it's kind of with with us and with the fruit trees, almost interesting that we fight so hard to make sure that fruit the blossoms don't die off during the spring with those frost events. That we In order to get good size to for peaches, apples, all of those fruit, nectarines, and so forth, we do then have to go through and do thinning. Um, and with both the stone fruits like peaches and nectarines, we'll go through um, and do some thin out the blossoms so that as but with a few different ways, like rope thinners that we have on tractors to having workers that go out with a thinning tool on a drill that then goes through and takes off a few of the blossoms as well. Just so that as you um, as you can kind of see on the picture on the right here, that the blossom set is a little less lessened at the end, and helps the tree be able to manage the crop load a little bit more, a little bit better as well. And likewise, with apples, we'll go through and do thinning. Though with apples, it's a little different. We'll actually go through and apply um, a natural chemical that will help in thinning that apple crop to ensure that we get good size as well as help the trees be able to manage the crop load so that each year we can have apples that are producing in all of our apple blocks. And then there is so much that we do even after that, during the rest of the summer, from constantly irrigating to ensure the trees get enough water to be healthy and to grow the crop effectively, to ensuring that uh, we don't get any pest damage um, by doing mating disruption, which you kind of see here in apples, to ensure that there isn't any worms that get into the apples at all, to managing all sorts of pests so that when you get purchase a fruit from us, it is there is no issues or um, you're not going to bite in and find some sort of an insect inside. And then kind of here, the last little bit is the kind of the funnest part of is being able to see all of the work pay off as as we go through and pick the different fruit crops. We have uh, just just this year alone with peaches, we picked around 16,231 pounds of peaches. Um, and that's like in comparison to real world, it would be about the weight of two male African elephants. Is how much that amount of peaches would be equal to. And then with just our nectarines this year, we also picked around 12,075 pounds of nectarines. Um, and that's is pretty similar to um, the weight of like a male Asian elephant, or um, the same weight as about a three average size small cars. Um, and so it's it's quite a lot of fruit when you come to think about it. Um, and then we also go through and we harvest apples and pick them into boxes that end up in local grocery stores. Um, and all of these fruits are picked by hand. We have to go through and pick them by hand. And we just in this year, we produced about 91,310 pounds of apples just on our small family farm, which uh, going back to the comparison, it would be almost it's the same weight as that 11 to 23 adult male African elephants would be, in thinking about it in that regard, or um, and so forth. And then for us as a farm, we most of our fruit we sell straight to customers through farmers markets, to some stands and some drop locations that we do throughout the state. Um, Basically, all of the stone fruit, the peaches, nectarines, plums, pluots, apricots, uh, the pears, and cherries, we all sell straight to customers. And then we also do about 25% of our apples will sell to stores and to local grocery stores. And a lot of them will be, um, you guys may have seen them in the stores, on these wooden racks, with our box and our name on them. And the rest, about 75% of that crop, the other 75% we will sell straight to customers, either fresh or processed. And that's kind of a rundown of our farming operation. So,
Awesome. Thank you so much, Fred. We just have a couple moments for questions. So I'll hand it over to Danny, who's been checking out the chat, and then we'll wrap up. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we received about three for John and four for Fred, but we'll just get through what we can. John, what is the most difficult part about your job, and what do you love most about your job? These questions are always great.
Well, right now, as I kind of hinted to in the presentation, right now, one of our biggest struggles is veterinarians. We have one of our field vets that is retiring at the end of the year, and we've had a job posting out for that position for quite some time, and we've been able to haven't been able to fill that position. So that's definitely something that's keeping us up at night right now. Um, but yeah, not a whole lot of negative with my job. The best thing about my job is just getting to work with so many hardworking individuals. If you were to go through any of the meat inspection plants, or go out to any of the livestock auctions or things like that, you would just see the hard work that is going on with the producers, and um, they're they're the hardest working people, I believe, in the country, are the farmers and ranchers of our communities. So for me, it's just all a positive on being able to work with so many good people every day. And so I would say for me, it's the people I work with.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I agree, and that's why we're all here today. We appreciate our farmers and all of the different jobs that go into ag. So thanks for being here, John and Fred. So Fred, what do you enjoy most about farming with your family?
so I would say for us, it's uh, honestly, it's been from a young age to now as I'm an adult is being able to be out there and share, to have the kind of have my dad and my grandpa kind of share their love for growing fruit and being a part of ag to now as I have young kids, being able to share those moments with my kids as well. Um, it's always fun um, to share with them, have them out helping when they can, and being able to share the joys of um, watching as a tree uh, produces as a fruit starts off as a small flower bud to this nice, beautiful, delicious fruit at the end of the season.
Yeah, showing young people the fruits of their labor, I think, is really important. So that makes a lot of sense. And one last question for you. What advice would you give to a young person interested in farming or ranching?
Who's that one for?
For Fred and John, if you have a question for, or if you have an answer to that, we'll end it there.
If you want to, you can give your few cents and we can share that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good for young people that are um, thinking about careers and whatnot to realize that agriculture is, you can do things in agriculture without being a huge landowner. There are opportunities to do things on a lower scale, and especially there's opportunities within government to help out as well. Here in our division, there's just like any company, you've got computer techs, you've got people who do all the office and certification work, training. There's a lot of things that go into making everything work. And so if you are interested in agriculture and working in the field, but not necessarily out, in the fields, there are things that you can do, soil testing, all sorts of things that you can do. So research those things if you have any kind of an interest. And if veterinarians, that would be an awesome thing to go into.
I kind of will echo, and I think John mentioned some key things. Um, Even like for our family farm, we're considered small compared to a lot of the big fruit growers in our area. But there are many opportunities if you want to be involved in ag. Um, you do not have to be a big landowner like John mentioned. You can start out small with just a garden that you raise stuff in. There are endless opportunities to be involved, whether it's in actually producing uh, produce to being involved in the animal industry to there to help farmers in helping them out in government positions or within different companies that are out there helping to improve the ag in the U.S. So I would just say that um, there are opportunities to be involved if you're so wanting to.
I love that so much. We often say with farm to school that you don't have to be a farmer, but everyone should know they're farmers. So that definitely relates to our mission greatly. And like you guys said, you don't have to be a farmer. If you want to be an engineer or a mechanic, there's so many things you can do to help farmers and make their job easier and put food on the plates of our community. So wherever you are, we can't hear you, but please give a round of applause to our presenters in your classroom today. We're super thankful that John and Fred could be here today to share their insights. And if you'd like to follow along, we recommend visiting our website. We have a new website coming, which should hopefully be filled with a ton of resources to make buying from your local farmer easier, as well as finding field trips and ag education opportunities with our local farms in Utah. So please follow along there. And again, we just thank you for being here and taking the time. We will send out the recording if you'd like to watch this again or watch it in full if you missed any of it. And we appreciate you being here. Thanks for your time. Have a great rest of your day.